Alright, hey guys, this is a 1995 Ford Mustang GT. I'm just going to run over some of the problems that people have with these vehicles. Either not running right, or maybe people did modifications and can't get it started, can't get running, things that just don't work out properly. So if you get one of these cars, this is a, like I said, 95. It's got about 180,000 kilometers on it. 5-speed 302 5-liter HO. These are different than the Fox body cars. It's a different computer. It's a lot smarter than the old A9Ls and things like that. And they don't respond to changes very well. And they're trying to compensate for anything that's out of their normal parameters. So some of the things you're going to want to do, start by probably replacing your fuel filter, which is back by the fuel tank. Jack it up between the rear diff and the fuel tank. Change that. Be careful of them little plastic clips that break. Make sure you get them in there properly, or you're not going to have a good time. You might delete some asphalt out of your driveway. Spark plugs. You're going to want to run the Mastercraft, or not Mastercraft, Motorcraft, not Canadian Tire or V-Groove or Bosch or any of that shit, or the Autolite, I think is their other brand. They do not like running on other spark plugs. I mean, you keep your Motorcraft with your Ford, your AC with your GM, your Champion with your Chryslers, and Bosch with your German stuff, and NGK with your Japanese vehicles. People think they're doing a big upgrade. They're not. You're actually losing horsepower. It's not what they were designed for. So you have your typical cap, rotor, plug wires. Make sure you space them out evenly and they're not chafing anywhere and stuff like that. Other things are, make sure you don't have any vacuum leaks like injector O-rings or intake gaskets. I've changed all these already. Another big thing with these cars is the harmonic balancer has an inner hub and an outer ring. The inner hub's on a crank with a keyway. They don't generally strip, but the outer ring is separated by an insulator of rubber, and they tend to fail over the years and walk themselves out, and the outer ring will spin on the hub. And so when you're trying to set your timing, once you're on those marks on the outer ring, those marks aren't in the right spot anymore. So you think you're setting it correctly, but you're not. So make sure that hasn't moved, buy a new one, replace it, whatever you got to do. And then when you set the timing on these, lots of guys will tell you, oh, go 14 degrees or 16 degrees, Fox body tricks that didn't really seem to hurt those cars. But the computer, again, being a lot smarter, it doesn't like that. These are supposed to be set at 10. That's what you set them at. And that's where you're going to make the best power and best drivability. And the other thing is, you've got a spout connector over here. This little guy. What you have to do is get the car up to temperature, make sure the fans run once or twice, thermostat's open, nice and hot. You turn it off, you pull the spout connector out and set it aside. Don't lose it, don't lay it up in your hood where you're going to crush it later. And then you're going to start your car back up. It's going to run really low, and what this does, it takes the computer out of the equation for adjusting timing. Then you're going to set your distributor to your 10 degrees on your harmonic balancer. You're going to shut it off, you're going to plug that back in, and then you're going to start it and let it come down off high idle. And that is the correct procedure for these cars. No ifs, ands, or buts. That's straight from Ford. Anything else, again, it's not going to run properly. This car, somebody changed the TPS, throttle position sensor. You had one from, I don't know if it's an older car or a newer car, but it had a different plug, and checking the parameters, none of the readings were correct. The computer didn't know what to do. Different resistance, whole 9 yards. So I put a factory one on, changed the plug back over. And as far as people saying you have to adjust these, no you don't. Maybe on a Fox body, but not on these cars. The computer does all that. It zeroes out every time you turn the key back on. No adjustment required. Now, as far as idle, if you're experiencing surge, any things like that, stalling at stoplights, especially with automatics with the OD, you have this little guy which the Fox bodies don't have, and that is a base air adjustment. Once your car is warm and the IAC is out of the question, you can adjust this, kind of like adjusting your idle. Do not adjust the idle stop down there. Do not do that. It's the wrong way to go about it. It's not, you're gonna make more problems. So you adjust that where it's got to be, and make sure your fuel pressure is good. I put a gauge on this car specifically. Make sure it's where it's supposed to be. Check all your vacuum lines. Make sure you don't have any leaks. These are terrible for cracking, where they go onto the, you can either trim them or replace them, whatever you want to do. Check all your booster lines and everything. And that helps a lot of stuff out. Another thing is, I don't know why these bend, but from people flooring it or whatever, but when you open these up, they hit a stop. Usually what happens is you floor your car and your throttle's only going about here. You have to have somebody just press it all the way to the floor, put a jack stand on it or something, come out, pull this boot, and make sure your plate's actually wide open. Usually you'll see they're about 3/4, so you're not even flooring your car all the way when you're trying to. Then a few other things: clean your mass airflow sensor. You can take this all apart, use the right cleaner, not brake clean. Mass airflow sensor cleaner doesn't leave a residue when it dries. That's a big help. Make sure all your wiring's in good shape. And then there's some problems these have. The California emissions and all that BS. They try to recycle the blow-by and oil vapors. Cap that off. I put like a screen on here to stop nasty critters and caterpillars from nesting in there. And at the back of the engine, you can't see it, but there's a like a filter tube and a hose that tries to suck into a T-port back here under your intake. Those plug up. They have a screen inside. You got to clean them all out. I'd put like a valve cover filter on here, deleted all that stuff, and then make sure that plastic T isn't cracked and it's sucking air where it shouldn't be, and giving you vacuum leaks. And you can only see that under the intake. So yeah, timing chain. I've had to replace this. I put a double roller in it. The other one was completely worn out, and it had an MSD distributor in it. It ran worse. I put a factory one back in with new tune-up parts, obviously, and runs like $1 million. Coil, sometimes you get the terminal will arc out, and it'll be a lot smaller than it's supposed to be, so you do your plug wires and stuff, and you're not getting a good connection in there. So make sure that's good. Make sure your plastic isn't cracked anywhere, and if all else fails, pull into a spot at night where it's completely dark, open the hood while it's running, and look for a little lightning show. And sometimes you'll see things that will amaze you. Other than that, I think that's about it with these. They run pretty good. They're pretty reliable, pretty good on fuel for what they are. And yeah, hopefully that helps. See ya.